In this video, I'll show you how I turned these old fence posts into this sign and this ring box for my wedding. A few years ago, my father gave me some of these old split cedar fence posts. He found them while clearing out an old fence line on our family farm. His best guess was that the fence had been built nearly 90 years ago. Looking at some of the shorter pieces gave me hope that there was still some solid wood inside these rough-looking posts. I selected a medium-length piece and started cutting it up and milling it into a board. Of course, the board I was able to get wasn't big enough for what I wanted to make, so I added some strips of walnut to either side to increase the panel width. The walnut I used also came from our family farm. We had milled some boards from an old walnut log using a chainsaw mill. A couple of the smaller pieces I placed in the oven to kiln dry because I wasn't patient enough to wait for air drying. After it was dry, I used the CNC router to face one side flat and then planed it down into a panel. Initially, I cut the panel in half to make a test epoxy river pour. The river turned out okay, but the piece wasn't really big enough to make anything cool, so I ripped a strip off of either side to add to the cedar fence post board. After the glue dried, I planed the panel flush. Using the CNC router, I engraved lettering into the center of the panel. Then I poured some black epoxy into the lettering. When the epoxy had cured, I planed off the panel again, returned it to the CNC, and cut the outside profile into the shape of Nebraska. After sanding, I soaked the piece in some mineral oil as a quick finish. Normally, I would have used something like a wipe-on polyurethane, but I had the oil bath set up already, and I was out of poly, so I ran with it. It never ceases to amaze me how beautiful walnut looks when it goes into the oil. And look at that cedar. It has the deepest red color I've ever seen in cedar, and it looked awesome. That dirty old fence post sure cleaned up nice. My only regret was that the epoxy turned out a little too dark, so the lettering doesn't show up very well, but it still looks great. About that same time, I was going to be getting married and needed a small box for my daughter to carry the rings in. After seeing how the cedar turned out, I opted to make it out of some old cedar fence post. I thought the historic aspect was a nice touch. The CNC router was used to carve out the two halves of the box. The posts hold the rings and extend to touch in the middle, so the rings won't bounce around into each other. I also used the CNC to engrave our first initials into the lid. The finished box got a bath in oil and was then dried and buffed out. It turned out great and really fit with our wedding theme and other decorations. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that like button. Thanks for watching.